El-Badawy, a senior analyst at the Centre on Religion and Geopolitics. Thank you very much indeed for coming to talk to us. So this is now at the kind of the top court in the land to decide whether this ban should be upheld. If it is upheld, what do you think the impact will be in France?
I think it'll be really troubling because I think it's really going to alienate so many people, Muslim people, I think many women, even if they're not even religious, if they've got different religions, I think they really sympathise with the lady that we've seen on Tuesday be forced to disrobe on the beach. I mean, it's something that really is just part of civil liberties.
And, I mean, it has also divided the ministers, even within the current government in France. We've had Manuel Valls describing the Burkini as representing the enslavement of women, but the education minister saying that even though she disapproves of the Burkini as a feminist, she disapproves of the ban. She thinks people should be allowed to wear it. So how much of a kind of divisive issue politically is this going to be?
Look, I think it's really clear to see that we're really plunging headfirst into an age that really centrist voices, moderate voices, reasoned voices and ideas are being drowned out by extremist voices. And this is not just in France, we're seeing it globally right now.
But Manuel Valls would argue he's a centrist, wouldn't he?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, it's centrist in terms of ordinary people just trying to understand both sides of the situation and apply it to reasoning, putting policies that are meant to be solving a problem that is not just cultural, it's a security issue as well. And asking ourselves, is this really the security answer that we're trying to get right now? Banning something that is so important to so many people in the world, in France today.
Do you think this is the confusion in some ways for sort of policymakers in France is partly because they already have rules on things like the veil and the niqab? Is that, do you think, why people might have thought that this was a good idea?
No, I mean, secularism is certainly a reason for why they would have done this. This is where they're going to be justifying it. But they're also putting it and contextualising it today into the security threat. But as you say, it's not inconsistent with French policy towards headscarves. We've seen it already happening in schools. Women and girls are not allowed to wear those things in schools. And so it is consistent with this idea. But we have to be aware that actually secularism is not the same everywhere. And this concept of secularism, it is important that we don't just look at this as this is actually reflective. French secularism has always been quite aggressive in its secularism. And that's a real trouble because when we're trying to promote secularism in Muslim-majority countries, for instance, as an answer to the diverse societies that we're seeing, and to protect religious identities, actually what it's always been seen as actually quite anti-religious. And this only reinforces those beliefs.
So, I mean, we've had the president of the French Council of the Muslim Faith saying he was, quote, concerned over the direction the public debate is taking and talking about growing fear of stigmatisation of Muslims in France. If that continues, how do you see that playing out in terms of existing kind of Muslim population in France and how they consider themselves as being part of France or not?
We have to understand that what we're trying to challenge right now is the extremist voices that are, at the moment, much louder, much more compelling than the centrist voices or the more moderate voices that are much more representative of the masses, to be honest. But what we have to say is that at the end of the day, ISIS want to send the message out that there is an us and them, that there are these two clash of cultures, and that Islam, there is no space for Muslims to operate and navigate their religion in a Western liberal society, because Western liberalism stands for debauchery and immoral behaviour. This is exactly what many people would be looking at and thinking, well, there you go. What we're saying is if you want to operate within our society and our Western liberal societies, you need to show your flesh. That's something that for many religious people is actually not what they want to do. And that isn't what represents Western liberalism. It isn't what represents Western liberalism for me, certainly. I am a practicing Muslim and I operate very differently, and I feel completely comfortable not having to cover up, but I still wouldn't want to wear a swimming costume on a beach, even though I'm not a hijabi. And I think that's the important message, that it's only going to carry on alienating people and potentially pushing them more towards extremist voices that they'll more likely relate to than at the moment Western liberalism is offering.
OK, Emma El-Badawy, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts on the subject. Thank you.